Please welcome Marcelo Suárez-Orozco, Wasserman Dean of UCLA Graduate School of Education Information Studies.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aguilera, for your strong words and for reminding us of something that is so true, it's so beautiful, and it's so much of the endeavors we're undertaking now and moving forward. Welcome on behalf of UCLA and the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies at UCLA. I am tremendously proud and pleased to welcome you here to our university as we convene for this momentous project, the Environmental and Climate Change Literacy Project and Summit. As Dean of UCLA's Graduate School of Education and Information Studies, I look forward to working with you at tomorrow's summit and moving forward in the months and years ahead as we come together. We will tackle the challenge of climate change, literacy, and development for sustainable development. As we begin, let me offer my thanks and my recognition to so many colleagues and friends here gathering this evening. Buenas tardes y a todos bienvenidos. Especially, I want to thank the leadership of the California State University system and the University of California system for their leadership. I'm very happy and look forward to hearing tomorrow from the CSU Chancellor, Tim White, and the UC President, Janet Napolitano. As one of the co-chairs of our ECCLPS Summit, 3 highly regarded colleagues in this endeavor are my partners in crime. First, Professor V. Ramanathan, Dr. Ram, Distinguished Professor of Atmospheric and Climate Sciences at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, University of California, San Diego. Ram. Second, I am equally grateful and pleased and honored and touched to have worked with a Bruin, a graduate of the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies, Dr. Marquita Granot-Shire, who is currently Assistant Vice Chancellor of Educator Preparation and Public School Programs for the California State University Office of the Chancellor. Marquita. Last, but certainly not least, Dr. Fred Uy. Fred, where are you? Fred. Serves both as Director of the Department of Educator Preparation and Public School Programs and Co-Director of the Center for the Advancement of Instruction in Quantitative Reasoning at the Office of the Chancellor, California State University System. Fred, thank you. Thank you for... We are also joined this evening with a truly wonderful, extraordinary, hardworking staff, members of the full ECCLPS Steering Committee and Subcommittee. If you're a member of our committees or subcommittees, kindly rise so that we can acknowledge you and your contributions. Thank you. Homo sapiens sapiens has become a geologic force. As those of you in this room already know, the need for action is urgent. Our situation brings to mind a quote, I think, by Jean-Paul Sartre, which is nothing concentrates the mind like being executed in the morning. Well, tomorrow AM is metaphorically here. As the Washington Post recently reported about the sobering report from the United Nations climate change, quote, the world has squandered so much time mastering the action necessary to combat climate change that rapid, unprecedented cuts in greenhouse gas emissions offer the only hope of averting an ever-intensifying cascade of consequences. In a grim assessment of how off track the world remains, the UN report that global temperatures are on pace to rise perhaps over 3 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, that's beyond pre-industrial averages, tells us a very powerful and sobering story. The time to act and to act with urgency is upon us. We have a secret weapon to use in the fight against climate change: the youth of the world. With unchecked climate change, the future for them isn't what it used to be. In September, youth of the world showed us all the potential, all the creativity, all the kinetic energy, the power, organizing a massive global climate strike involving millions of young people in more than 150 countries and territories, speaking nearly every language known through the ethnographic record. In their engagement, in their enthusiasm and outright passion, they inspired us as they took to the streets to take on the challenge of this generation. As the New York Times reported, quote, rarely, if ever, has the modern world witnessed a youth movement so large and wide, spanning across societies, rich and poor, tied together by a common, if inchoate, sense of rage. End of quote. Their actions were a reflection of what Time Person of the Year Greta Thunberg has said, quote, if no one else will take action, then we will. Youth are the key to winning the battle against climate change. And after years of inaction, we must step up to make sure they have all the opportunities to learn and to gain access to the knowledge that they will need to understand and challenge, and to have the tools to challenge the climate change crisis we're facing, and the ability to lead to solutions that will necessarily be essential for saving the planet. We must help our students succeed. Teachers must empower the nation's young people. And that is why we're here tonight, tomorrow, and moving forward. As educators and advocates, we're coming together to find ways to greatly increase the opportunities for young people to learn about the environment, to learn about climate, and to take action on the climate change crisis we face. As with so many difficult problems, we will be turning to our teachers for their leadership, for their help. Our teachers must help to empower the young people of our nation to address the crisis of climate change. And we must help our teachers to do so. UCLA and the UCLA Graduate School of Education and Information Studies is honored. We feel privileged to join you in this important collaboration. We are taking the fight. In 2016, students from the UCLA GSE&IS Department of Information Studies took part in significant efforts to preserve data on climate change, data that are rapidly disappearing from US government websites under the current administration. Preserving information and ensuring access to research and data are essential in these times. Leaders in our UCLA Center X teacher education programs are engaged in significant efforts to ensure our teacher candidates have the knowledge, have the tools, have the skills, have the competencies they need to work with their students to learn about the environment, to learn about climate change, and development that is sustainable. TP Director Emma Ippolito is joining us this evening together with Rachel Green, who teaches the science methods, is exploring ways to expose students to environmental principles and concepts. And in Emma's work and her class and her work with her teacher candidates, they are working at the forefront of bringing the science, the basic principles into every social studies classroom in the schools we serve. Finding ways to integrate the subject of climate and climate change and its impact of forced migration is another existential must moving forward. The world is witnessing the largest crisis of forced migration in recorded history. Approximately 80 million human beings are pushed into the unknown, increasingly pointing to the dark synergies between unchecked climate change, war, and terror. Syria, Central America, and a handful of African countries are Exhibit A of the just horrific synergies between climate change, war, and terror, and the forced displacements of millions and millions of human beings. Members of the School of Education faculty, Professor Jeff Scher, who's joining us this evening, is teaching environmental justice in his course on critical media literacy. And this spring, he will begin teaching a new course on environmental justice in our new undergraduate education major. The harshest impact of climate change, and here my teacher, Ram, will correct me if I get this wrong, are the poorest in the planet. The top billion wealthier inhabitants of the northern hemisphere. Billion is really Europe and the United States, Canada, maybe Mexico, are creating the vast majority of the pollution, yet the bottom 4 billion people on Earth will pay the prices that are increasingly accruing due to unchecked climate change and other environmental disruptions. California subject matter projects, well represented here this evening, located here at the UCLA campus, are also engaged in important work, ensuring that our teachers have the opportunity to gain understanding of the climate and ways to teach about as they master California's next generation standards in science. And in one of the projects I'm most excited, UCLA education PhD student Heather Clark, with guidance of her advisor, UCLA Professor Bill Sandoval, collaborating with Darlene Tew, a chemistry teacher at the UCLA Horace Mann Community School in South Los Angeles, are making history in teaching environmental science. They're developing community-based approaches to exploring climate change and the impacts of climate change in Los Angeles' most underserved neighborhoods. They're collaborating to find ways to make the issue relevant to the lives of all our students and all the citizens in our most underserved neighborhoods while connecting to the largest issues of science and climate in the 21st century. We're excited to learn from their collaboration and from their work. But here at UCLA, we need to do more, and we're committed to doing so. But 150 years ago, the great A.G. Wells prophetically announced to the world, civilization is in a race between education and catastrophe. Guess who's winning the race? As I stand here tonight, we're losing that race. We all must do more, and I invite you to join us in the journey moving forward. That's why we've gathered at this summit, launch this collaboration that will greatly further teaching and learning about the environment and climate change and engage young people in solutions to the crises. I urge you, I beg you, to join us in an all-out effort. Thank you.